Today I'm going to show you how to give dark hair tones a semi-transparent effect. First thing you're going to want to do is set your base tone. Whenever you're picking your base tone, it's very important to keep in mind not to go too dark. And the reason you don't want to go too dark is because it'll make it very difficult to see any shadows or your line work. For dark brown hair, you're going to want to stay right around in the warmer spectrum colors. And for black hair, you're going to want to use desaturated cool tones. Once you've picked your base tone, next we're going to create a new layer and we're going to set it to clipping mask. Using the blush color of whatever skin color you chose, we're going to grab a big soft round airbrush and we're going to start buffing this in around the edges of the face. To help this color blend in better, we're going to use Gaussian blur and adjust as desired. Once you have this blended in, you're going to go in and you're going to lower the opacity. Next, we're going to create another clipping mask. Using the skin tone of your character, we're going to go in using the same airbrush and we're going to lightly buff this in closer to the edges of the face. And same as before, we're going to use Gaussian blur to help it blend in better. We're going to lower the opacity again. For black hair, you'll want to keep this blush layer fairly low, skin tone a little bit higher. If you're satisfied with these colors, you can go ahead and merge your layers. But I like to typically keep them separate, that way if I need to go back and make any tweaks. Next, we're going to create another clipping layer, and this time we're going to go in and put in our darkest values. If your character has a warm base tone, you're going to want to use cool colors for the darkest value. And if your base color falls into the cool spectrum, you're going to want to use warm tones for the darkest value. Also, something to keep in mind whenever you're picking your darkest values, make sure again you're not going too dark. Now that we've picked the color for our darkest values, we're going to go on that same clipping layer that we just created using a big soft airbrush, and we're going to lightly start buffing these in at the outer edges of the hair. And I'm sure some of y'all are wondering why I didn't just use the base color and create a multiply layer. Of course, there's nothing wrong with using a multiply layer for this, but I find by using the opposite tone of the base color, it helps create a new level of depth as well as complements the other colors around it. For black hair, this might not be as noticeable whenever you do this step though. And you may be saying to yourself, this doesn't really look like black hair. And you have to keep in mind that we're still going to need to add shadows and highlights later on. This is just the base tone itself, and we're just trying to create the illusion of black without actually using black. On a new layer, we're going to add our eyebrows, and then we're going to bump the opacity down as desired. And the reason why we're just lowering the opacity instead of using a solid lighter color is because it'll help it blend in more with this gradient. To give the illusion that the hair is over the eyes, first thing you're going to do is make sure to have little cutouts between the lines of the eyes and the lines of the hair. This can really help the viewer understand where one line ends and one line begins. Create a new clipping layer above the line work for your eyes. Unlike with lighter hair colors, instead of using the base tone for this, we're actually going to use a lighter color. And now in that clipping layer that we just created, we're going to go in and we're going to color in the areas where the hair overlaps the eyes. You're also going to use these same steps for black hair as well. And with that, you now know how I create a gradient and a semi-transparent effect with darker hair tones. Anyway, I hope this helps, and as always, good luck and happy arting!